CPYB, founded by Marcia Del Weary, who's no longer with us. But I think when you start to do your research, a lot of some of the best dancers in the ballet world now have been trained by her. If you could just talk to, familiarize people, Jeff, talking about who she was, and also you had mentioned Peter Stark, who was your competitive coach, and talk about their different styles and talk about how they shaped who you are now as a dancer.
Yeah. So with Marcia, I mean, she was an amazing woman. I mean, she started a school out of a barn, and that was her father's barn, and grew this school, which then became a huge, renowned technical school that was for training, and it was known for that. I mean, it's crazy the amount of people that came through there, even just through summer programs. What she stood for was, regardless of who you are and what your body type is, everyone can be a dancer.
Wow.
As long as you work hard.
Yep.
And that was what she stood for.
And for the world of ballet, and we'll talk about this later, that's quite revolutionary, because ballet is quite an elitist art form, and and I think that was one of the reasons why I went to CPYB, was exactly what you just said. She democratized ballet.
She was super ahead of her time. She was creating dancers like a manufacturer. It was insane. And a lot of those dancers are in American companies now, or who have moved on and have become directors or ballet mistresses or ballet masters, or choreographers. So it's really crazy to see the amount of people that she has produced.
Right.
And then with Peter, I have had two coaches actually that were very significant. One was Magali Suarez, who is a Cuban teacher. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of who I was training with first. And she really revolutionized my thought of learning the tricks and the turns and the athleticism of dance, which kind of that's really shaped me as well. And then there was Peter Stark, who was a big influence in my career. And that's when I think when you shift from student to becoming a professional, that's kind of where I shifted with Peter Stark. And Peter Stark was head of the school in Orlando Ballet.
Okay. So you were most of your coaching was in Florida, in Orlando?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, most of my coaching was there. And that he is now the head of the men's program at Boston Ballet. He really taught me the artistic value as well as more technical, and really trusting me as a dancer to really fix my own, or using my brain to fix what I have to fix. Like, you can't always have the person in front of you tell you what to do. You have to kind of feel it. Yeah. And he really helped me with shaping that. So I owe him a lot for all of that. And we went everywhere. I mean, we went to Korea, we went to Helsinki, we went to.
I was gonna say, did you win a lot of competitions, or?
Yeah, the year I worked with Peter Stark, I did Youth America Grand Prix, which is a very big competition in the US.
Right.
That does now tour everywhere. So we did that. I got the Grand Prix award there. I got gold in Helsinki International Ballet Competition, which is in Finland. I got silver in Korea, the International Ballet Competition in Korea. There's some other ones, but I can't.
You said something that really, not calling, but you said that at CPYB, someone had said to you, you weren't good enough. And I find that so shocking. And I don't know if that was tough love or if that's just the climate of CPYB, because I think no one was ever good enough, but maybe that's why they produce dancers, because I say this, like, you were the best male dancer at CPYB, at least while I was there. I was only there for a year, but I remember watching you and being like, whoever this kid is, I know he's going to be a star. And then, you went on to, you're being quite humble, so I'm gonna just give you a resume. Like Boston Ballet, American Ballet Theater, English National Ballet now. We're gonna talk about your own project, Cirio Collective, like, and you're 29. Like, what? When you sit down and you think about all that you've accomplished at such a young age, like, how does that impact you, and
Yeah.
what purpose do you think that has served?
But first of all, like I'm just humbled that I'm able to do what I do
Right.
every day. Because a lot of people can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
There are points where I've sat down and been like, holy crap, like that was real. And sometimes you take it for granted, like you're just living in the moment, and it gets going and going year by year. It just keeps going. And I think, like, yeah, I've taken a step back and looked at it and been like, yeah, I've accomplished those things. But yeah, I'm really blessed. Like I'm just really fortunate.
Did
I
you
don't
have a very supportive, family unit? Like, were your mom and dad, like, were they
Yeah.
really supportive of your career? Do you think that that's also testament to why you've been able to garner such a successful career?
Yeah, I think, I mean, my parents are very involved in my life. And so I think, and I have a really good relationship with my family. So because of that support system, I've been able to accomplish the things that I've been able to accomplish. And my parents really always instilled in us to be humble for what you have,
Mm-hmm.
but when responsibility is given, that you need to work double.
Right. And your dad is your ethnic background. Your dad is Filipino, and your mom is
He's
what?
Filipino, yeah. My mom's American, so she's German Irish.
Nice. Okay. Being Filipino, like, has your race ever been an issue for you,
Yeah.
in the dance world? Because
Sure.
when we spoke about this, I think there are these archetypes of what a male ballet dancer is: tall, blonde, blue eyes. There's definitely, I did my own research, preparing for this interview and discovering the history of ballet. Kind of, it started off in the 15th century Italian Renaissance
Yeah.
court. So that's already setting it up as a highbrow art form for the affluent. Um, how did you navigate finding a space for yourself to exist within that? Have you had any struggles both when you were a student and professionally, or do you feel that served to your advantage?
Yeah. I think, like we talked about before, being in the school that I was and I started, Marcia was really, I was fortunate because Marcia was very about, it doesn't matter who you are or what your race is or what your body type is that, like, as long as you work hard, you're able to do it.
Right.
And so, like, for me, I grew up not thinking about racial discrimination, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so, like, we had so many dancers come through that were Asian and Black and Hispanic, and it didn't really matter. And, like, I grew up in a family that doesn't really matter. Like, everyone's included.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think I didn't really have racial discrimination, but I think that also has to do with me being at Boston and having a director that was who believed in me
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
my ability, and didn't really care maybe how I'm 5'9". It's not the tallest and it's not really the shortest. It's like kind of a little bit mid. I mean, maybe on the shorter side, I'd say. But he didn't really care about how tall I was and if I looked Asian, because, let's be honest, like, ballet was not really made for an Asian person or
Which I think is interesting, and I hope that which I don't want to say anything that sounds, but most Asian dancers are sometimes the best ballet dancers, and like, it's interesting. And we kind of spoke about this, and
yeah.
just trying to navigate around the cultural impact, because I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know more about this, but I think specifically when you think about male dancers, the best male dancers normally come from, like, Cuba, Brazil. Every time I've run into an Asian male dancers, they're incredible. What's even with that, like, what do you think is happening there racially? Do you think it's just because we, something that we spoke about as well is ballet is expensive, and like like you have to buy the uniforms. Like you were taking the private classes with
Yeah.
like these classes are not free, and I think that there's also knowing the birthplace of where ballet came from, its origins is in for the affluent, and thinking about how you expose youth from underprivileged, marginalized communities, thinking about how do we broaden the spectrum of what ballet looks like today? Not contemporary ballet, because I think that there's been a lot of I think there's been a lot of breakthrough there, but thinking about the classical ballet, Balanchine, how do you break the barriers there? Because I think when you do look at the companies of a City Ballet or an ABT or some of the top American companies, they're not incredibly diverse. You know what I mean? So, and I think part of that is to lack of education, lack of resource, lack of access. But I think a lot of that too can also be down to, because ballet does demand a certain physical facility. You need to have turnout, you need to have feet, you need to have extension, you need to be able to turn. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, because these are just all
No.
now I'm an outsider looking in. When I go to a performance, that's what I see on the stage.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what you think about that, and how, and going from company to company, what you've seen and what's been your experience, and how you navigate that.
Yeah. So, well, touching on, let's take it one at a time. With Asian and Cuban and Brazilian, what they all have in common, I think, is the aspect of them strictly working at what they do. Like with Cubans, they have so little but they give so much. I think it's also because of their state of their country, what the Cubans are like. And I think that's what happens with maybe some stricter countries and cultures, like especially like with Chinese dancers or Korean dancers. You kind of see that intensity of work. So yeah, that's why I think but not saying that they are all the best. Like there are amazing dancers from Russia. There's amazing dancers from France and Germany, and the list goes on and on and on. And I think it really depends on the individual as well, and their mental capacity of working. And then some people are just like insanely gifted, and they just don't have to work, and they can just do it. But I think hard work is where it's at. I shouldn't say
hard work is where it's at, for sure.
Hard work is where it's at. And yeah, speaking of diversity in companies, I think in ballet companies, I think it's really hard, because I think we are getting there, but we're not fully there. I see now, like right now, I'm seeing a lot in American companies and companies in the US, like you see Black dancers or Asian dancers more up front. And I think that's amazing. And I think of Tyler Stanley at New York City Ballet, amazing artist, amazing dancer, and he's paving the way. And there are dancers there paving the way, like Misty Copeland, or there's so many dancers. So I think it's a start, but we need to obviously keep going and diverse. I think it also still it comes down to the individual.
Do you see that narrative changing with tropes of masculinity and the dialogue around if you dance you have to be effeminate, or dance and being hyper masculine? What's happening there?
Sure, I think there is that stigma of if you're a ballet dancer, you're gay. It's like, how can you say that dance is gay? And a man is a man, regardless. And I think it's getting better. I think there are certain areas in the US, it's that stigma is not really there. Because I remember when I was coming up through the company in Boston, I had an outside life in Boston, and people would be like, well, what do you do? And I'd be like, yeah, well, I'm a professional ballet dancer. And they're like, what? That's so cool. Okay. And that was that's Boston. That's Boston. Right. Diverse metropolitan.
Right.
And it's an artistic I guess, city because of all the colleges and Berkeley and so people were being like, but like you look like some hip hop kid, and I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I enjoy that, but it's not what I do.
Right.
So there are people that have that think that ballet is great, and then there are people, yeah, that stigma. But
How do you change that stigma? I mean, maybe it's being maybe that stigma is being changed because
I think
I
it is.
also feel like male dancers are now being more. Because I also feel like there was a time where I kind of felt like male dancers were an accessory to the female prima ballerina,
Sure.
and now I feel like male dancers have kind of they own their own space now. It's
Yeah.
I don't know. I could again. I'd love to get your
Yeah.
input on that, but I do feel like there's now an ownership of what it is to be a male dancer, and I think that that's very separate of like I'm sure you're familiar with like the companies here like Ballet Boys and Matthew Bourne and stuff like that,
Yeah,
where it's
for
really
sure.
focused on the male dancer. Do you think that that's how we change the stigma against that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's also like educating people, and that goes back to like community. Like it's educating people that like it's artistic. Doesn't regardless of who you are, it's an artistic art form and it's an athletic art form. It shouldn't matter if you're gay or not, but it shouldn't have that stigma of being like, oh, you'll be gay if you do that.
Right.
But I really think it starts with the community. Like I think it really does. Like a lot of companies need to start reaching out to lesser communities and showing art in to a diverse group of people. I
Right.
think and it's very hard because yeah, like we said, like it's a very maybe prestigious art form, but why not? Why can't we bring it to everyone and
Yes.
make it available for everyone? And I think there are companies that really engage in it, but I think we need to start engaging it in a little bit more.
Right. I agree. I
So.
agree.